Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today I'll be reviewing the S.H.Figuarts Naruto Uzumaki Sage Mode Savior of Konoha figure from the series Naruto. Now, my history of Naruto was that I watched a lot of the original series, but sort of skipped large chunks of it and got the broad strokes from the CyberConnect games. And then I sort of went all in on Shippuden, especially around the Katsuki and Pain arcs, and then read from then onwards up to date until it finished, like literally reading it week by week until its core Shippuden finished. So it was a really fun ride and really cool, but the real reason why I grabbed onto it at that point was because the Sage Mode fight against Pain and the whole culmination of that arc was so incredible that it's sort of like seared into my mind as one of my favorite arcs in anime or manga, and I've always wanted a really good Sage Mode Naruto figure. And I didn't really like the look of the old one. I heard the old one is a pretty good figure, but I didn't really like the look of it too much. And now we've got this one using the 3.0 Naruto as a base and chucking on some new accessories and some slightly new engineering to get the job done. So we will jump right into it. So taken out of the box, here is Sage Naruto, and he's got a pretty decent loadout, honestly. So we've got the figure itself, we've got 5 faces, we've got a massive scroll, we've got a bunch of different paired hands, we've got 2 giant Rasenguns, we've got folded arms accessories, and then on the back, for some reason, not in a plastic shell at all, is the actual Sage Mode cloak and a Rasen Shuriken. Now, I love the accessories, but I'm kind of at odds on how they were packed. It's kind of weird. Like, I kind of get the cloak because it's soft goods and can kind of just go anywhere, but like the shuriken, like that could break in there if it's like shakes loose. It's just held on in a little plastic bag with some tape that can go around loose. It was actually stuck to the back of my cardboard tray when I pulled out the figure for the first time, so that could have gone loose, could have broken, anything. So it's a bit of a weird choice. But in general, the loadout is really, really cool, and it's one of the most accessorized Naruto 3.0 figures we've had, which is pretty damn cool. So taken out of the box, here is Naruto set up, and he looks like any other 3.0 Naruto. If there are any subtle differences besides the faces, I haven't really noticed it in terms of sculpt. And there is something different for the headband, at least. That's on a ball joint instead of a hinge. So that's at least different, but in terms of the actual shape and sculpt of the figure, I didn't really notice anything different, unless there is some slight different engineering in the arms to allow for the new folded arms accessory, but otherwise it feels like the exact same figure. And even side by side with the Jinchuriki entrusted with Hope, they look and feel exactly the same, which is good because they are both incredible figures, and that 3.0 Naruto just like changed the game completely. But I don't really like how similar they look, and that's pretty much why you get the cloak with this figure, so you can change that aesthetic completely. But in terms of coloring, this is a darker figure. It doesn't look as bright or saturated as the base Naruto. It's sort of like the battle damage Naruto that they did, where it had like a darker wash on it, and it looks quite good. But before moving any further, we'll change the aesthetic of this figure because we kind of need it, and that will be chucking on the cloak. So you just move the arms backwards and slot the arms through the sleeves. Very easy, very similar to the Akatsuki robe that we had with the Itachi recently, but the sleeves are way shorter, so it's much easier to put on and off. I'm not a huge fan of the soft goods look for this one, just because the area around his neck looks very puffy and he looks very doll-like, and it's a bit funny. And the actual stitching and detail of the cloak is a little bit frayed on mine, so I'm not super into that. But once you put the cloak on and chuck the scroll on to complete the look, he looks generally pretty good, nice and vibrant with the cloak and very colourful. You can bend and manipulate the cloak around a bit to fix that look around his neck, but it is very, very hard to deal with. Effectively, the promo images are very hard to achieve. But in general, I do like the aesthetic. Like I said, it breaks up the figure quite a bit and does actually make it look unique, and I like that quite a bit. I don't know how else they would have done this besides like a soft plastic similar to the Kurama Link mode that they did earlier this year. I think it was this year. And That one was really, really good, and they achieved that in a really fantastic way. But a permanently flared out cloak just wouldn't work with this figure, and I understand why they went with soft goods in the end. But side by side with the Jinchuriki entrusted with hope, you can see how much this new cloak changes the aesthetic of the figure, and looks pretty damn good in my opinion. But because this is pretty much exactly the same figure as any other 3.0 Naruto, the articulation is pretty much the same, so we might as well go through articulation when he's got the cloak on, so it will look and feel quite a bit different. So he's got a ball joint in the head and neck, which allows for pretty good motion, side to side, up and down, just pretty good free movement. There's a ball joint at the headband instead of a hinge, and that can rotate around pretty well. The arms can move up that far and rotate all the way around. They are blocked by the cloak a little bit, but there is a swivel at the upper arm, as well as a bend at the elbow and a hinge at the wrist. The scroll can also rotate around, and the actual sash is a sort of soft plastic, so it's easy to take on and off. There's a ball joint in the upper chest and waist, which allows for some swiveling and crunching. The cloak is got bendy wire throughout the sides and back, which allows for some pretty cool dynamic poses. The legs can split that far, which is pretty damn good. And he can swivel at the upper thigh, kick forward and bend his knees. Very similar to what we've seen in all the other Naruto figures. There's a little ball joint just at the end of the pants, as well as a pivot at the ankle and bend at the toe. And yeah, that's the pretty standard 3.0 loadout. The cloak doesn't really get in the way too much, which is good, and you still get pretty dynamic range. For faces, we get 5 faces out of the box, so we've got a determined neutral face out of the box, we've got a smiling face, we've got a teeth gritted angry face, we've got a mouth open shouting face, as well as an eyes closed gathering chakra face. And all of these look really good. I do like the Sage Mode aesthetic. The eyes are so full of expression in all Naruto media, and it's really important that you capture that look just right, and so far pretty much every single Figuarts has, and this is no exception. And with all of that, you can get some pretty good poses out of him. Thankfully, because this is a 3.0 body, that he can cross his legs just fine and do the meditation pose. He's got hands to replicate that look. I do kind of like that they are separate hands and not like a joined folded arms sort of thing where they click into one another or they're molded in one piece. It's kind of cool lining everything up and seeing the actual range that this figure has. The folded arms are different to some of the others where they don't come off at the upper arm because of the cloak would get in the way, so they actually come off just at the elbow and forearm, so it's a different sort of way to do it, but it achieves the same sort of thing, and that was relatively easy to take on and off, and looks pretty good with it. Takes a little bit of maneuvering to get it looking dynamic to the level that I would like, but it does ultimately look quite good. And of course you get the Rasengan effects. I do like the giant Rasengan. It does look very, very nice. And you get 2 of them, and they just plug right into the hands. They're sort of done like a lot of the modern Dragon Ball ones, where there's a plug in the actual hands and a hole in the effect part, so it's easy to slide on and off, and you can rotate it around a little bit if you want to change the aesthetic just a tiny bit. You get 2 of those, which is nice, and as well as paired hands to hold them, so you can do his double giant Rasengan just fine. I'm pretty sure these are giant Rasengans, or they're just double Rasengans. They look bigger than normal, so I'm calling them giant. And those Rasengans pair very well with his faces, and you can get a pretty good range of motion again. And I used to have a lot of trouble getting dynamic Rasengan poses out of Naruto, but I think this one works a bit better. It might be because of the cloak that I can sort of bend it in more like organic ways, and it makes it look a little bit better, or I've just gotten better in general at taking photo and video. Either way, I think these turned out pretty good. And of course you get the Rasen Shuriken, which looks really cool. I believe this is the same one that the Kurama Link Mode one had, which is cool because then you could do double Rasen Shuriken if you had them both. But this looks really, really nice, and I do like how it turned out. It is compatible with the standard 3mm peg, so you can put it on a stand of its own and throw it around, and looks quite good. I'm very, very happy with how this all turned out. And effectively you're buying another 3.0 Naruto just with a bunch of new accessories that he hasn't had before. And really, that's fine, I think. Yeah, it's the same figure we've seen before, but every single time they've re-released this figure, they've at least tried to do something a bit different, whether that's improving quality control, having better accessories, or having completely unique accessories. It is cool to see, and really, it's similar problem with the Dragon Ball Z figures, where the characters' designs don't change so much that the entire engineering and style of the figure needs to change. It's all very incremental, and usually it's something different, like just like a head sculpt or something like that, or different faces. And Dragon Ball's been doing it for ages, and we don't really bat an eye to it that much anymore. And Naruto's been doing it recently, and some people, I think, are a little bit annoyed by that, but it's pretty standard at this point, and at least so far every single Naruto has like a reason to exist, which I do like. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you all next time.